This is Sara Banta. She is the CEO of Accelerated Health Products. And she's going to talk with us today about how fear causes, the cortisol to increase. And if it gets too high, it can have very detrimental, health consequences. Welcome, Sara. I am so excited that you're here. I'm happy to see you again.
I am too, Carol. Thank you so much for having me. I love this topic. As I'm a mom of three, you've got to teach your kids not to have the fear and to squash their worries, right?
Absolutely. And, when you and I had the opportunity to visit, I, my jaw was on the ground because you have overcome so much. Would you please share with the audience some of that story?
Yeah. So I had my own rock bottom of health issues. I had Crohn's disease, PCOS, heavy metal toxicity, hair falling out, acne, and acne after I was a teenager. That's not supposed to happen. Bloat, constipation, low energy, all of these things. Finally found a practitioner that was helping me peel my own onion of health and getting to the root cause when then my 9-year-old son was diagnosed with like leukemia. And I'll never forget when I sat there and I saw the diagnosis. I saw his cells underneath a microscope, these cancer cells that looked so sick. I wasn't a biologist. You did not have to know biology to know these cells did not look right. And I started crying. And he looked at me and he said, "Mom, why are you crying? You're going to fix me." And I said, "You're right." And at that point, I knew nothing mattered about my own health. It was all about my child. And we were on a path. And I didn't know anything about diet. I started him on our flagship product, the Accelerated Silver. I cleaned up his diet a little bit, stopped microwaving corn dogs, which anyone can tell you that's not so healthy. And within a year, his blood was beautiful. No cancer cells, no nutritional deficiencies, no nothing. And he looked at that meeting with the practitioner, I started crying and laughing and smiling. And he goes, "Mom, why are you shocked? I knew you were going to fix me."
Wow.
And it was at that moment that I thought, "You're right. And I've got to share this with the world." Well, fast forward, I then had a daughter with asthma, allergies, anemia, could not get her off the couch. We joked that I loved her, but I did not like her. She was so difficult. What kid doesn't want to go ride their bicycle? Well, she had nothing in her. She had no energy. That girl is at USC rowing on the rowing team, the hardest sport out there. But fast forward also to my son when he was 15. Mind you, none of my kids really got sick much after we understood how to help the immune system naturally. But at 15, he was rowing. All three of my kids row. And this boy, because he loves his health so much, he doesn't take it for granted. He works out hard. Will put anyone to shame. And he was overworking out, and his heart was stopping,
Oh,
literally stopping.
yeah.
And there was one night at 2 in the morning, I heard this pounding on the wall from his room. And I run into his room and he's pounding on his chest. And I go, "What?" He couldn't breathe because his heart literally had stopped. And we get it going again. The next morning, we're sitting on the edge of his bed, and I said, "Okay, so what is this? We know our immune system's strong. You're a healthy boy. You got great muscles. You do well in school." And he goes, "Mom, we've done it before. We're going to do it again."
Mm.
The first lesson with his first cancer scare was the start of my business. It was Accelerated Health Products. It was coming up with natural solutions that not only help with the symptoms that you're experiencing short term, but long term cumulative improving your resilience in life, improving overall health. And I always look back to that moment thinking, why me, God? To, I understand why me, God, because you had a story, you had something that you wanted to teach the world through me. And
Mm.
that was my purpose.
Wow.
And fast forward to even just this year, where my one child is going through some stuff in college. And I said to her, I don't know what God's doing with this, but I'm sure excited to see the story. And within
Right.
just a couple weeks, some of the answers already came out. And so when you talk about fear and worry, I always say worry is praying for what you don't want.
Mm.
You are going to manifest what happens in your life by what you focus on. And
Okay.
there's this mind body connection, right? So fundamentally, I just want to get into the physical aspect because I always say people need that physical foundation to help their mental state, their emotional state. If your thyroid's low, you're probably reaching for some antidepressants or anti-anxiety drugs because your thyroid is your master endocrine gland. And if you don't have the energy physically, you don't have the energy mentally. So
Mm.
that's number one. And I always talk to my clients about their thyroid health, making sure they're supplementing with the right supplements like accelerated iodine or accelerated thyroid to help support the thyroid to give you the energy. Okay, so once we have that physical foundation, then you want to focus on stress management. We all have stress. If
Mm.
it's not going to be my daughter this week, it's going to be my son next week, or my other daughter the following week, or my husband, or myself, or my dogs. It's going to be something. It's going to be politics. It's going to be financial. It's going to be something. And something you need to remember is life is not meant to be easy. It's meant to have these challenges to make you grow. You grow your muscles in the gym, just like you need to grow your mental strength, your mental muscles to overcome challenges, because when you overcome this challenge today, it's going to prepare you for the challenge in 2 weeks or 2 years, right? So it's how do we perceive our stress? The stress is going to be there. Are we going to see it as a 1 or are we going to see it as a 10? Because when you see your stress as a 10, like you mentioned, it's going to increase the stress hormones, cortisol. Did you know that cortisol on its own, without eating a morsel of chocolate, is going to raise your blood sugar and raise your fat storage? Hands down. It has a whole bunch of mechanisms in your body to say, I don't know if you're running from a tiger. I don't know if you're going through a famine, or I don't know if you just had a fight with your husband. But I'm going to turn on the survival mechanisms. I'm going to store fat and I'm going to store it around my belly to protect those expensive organs like your liver and your kidneys, right? So your body doesn't know. It just wants to stuff those fat cells to survive. Our bodies want to survive. It's also going to lower your thyroid. It's going to say, we need to convert that T4 into reverse T3, not your metabolism, fat burning, free T3. We want the reverse T3 is going to shut everything down. Because if I'm in a famine, I need to store those fat calories so that I can get through that famine. Now, mind you, you're just stressed about the fight you had with your husband or about the politics, but your body doesn't know that, right? And
Right.
you're going to work out and you're going to do 3 hours of cardio and eat about 800 calories because you're gaining weight, and you don't understand that that's even going to make your body more stressed. But then what do we do when we're stressed and we're in fear? We increase the sugar and carb consumption because it helps stabilize our mood for a short bit of time.
Very
And but
cool.
right, very short, but that carbs inflame the brain, leading to dementia and Alzheimer's, worsen seizures, all of that stuff. And then we have a modern world that makes everything so much more difficult. The degradation of the food supply, not just the processed foods that have no nutritional value, where you eat them and your body says, nope, keep eating because I'm not getting what I want. But it's got the vegetable oils, the GMOs that lead to lower brain function. And those also are going to disrupt the gut. Well, guess what? You've got that gut-brain connection. If your gut is not making your happy, relaxed hormones like serotonin and GABA and dopamine, you're going to be anxious. You're going to be worried. Your brain's going to be spinning. You're not going to be able to sleep. Everything is out of whack. Your cortisol levels are high when they're not supposed to be and low when they're not supposed to be, right? So also there's these foods in our diet, and this is where you need to come and learn more from me because I don't have time to get into it right now. But foods like broccoli and cauliflower and chicken that you think are healthy, but they're disrupting your gut, disrupting your detox pathways, and making that fear and the feeling of stress even worse. And what's happened is because of the degradation of the food supply, these once healthy foods that you could eat 5 years ago, even 10 years ago, that had no problem are now causing bloat, constipation, inflammation, brain fog, and anxiety. So there's a food list I've put together. It's free. You can go through it and see all the foods that I say are yeses, foods that are absolute no's, and foods that if you're feeling good, you can get away with eating, right? So we've got all of that. Then we also, Carol, have the reality of the spike protein from what's gone on in the last few years. And this spike protein that everybody has in there has disrupted the liver. And if you follow me, you know you got to love your liver and take care of your liver. But it also, away from the politics, away from the financial stress, away from the family stresses, that spike protein increases anxiety on its own. Our mental health, young or old, is skyrocketing in the wrong direction. We are all suffering. So, and it's not all your fault. It's things that are happening in your body that you don't know about. My mom has never had a weight issue. She eats what she wants. She's always been the happiest person ever. No stresses, no financial stresses, she's got a great life. And about 2 years ago, she said, Sarah, I don't understand, but I'm having a hard time getting out of bed. I have this anxiety I've never had before. So it affects everybody. The kids are suffering. So we also are in a society where we're getting these dopamine hits, these free addictions, social media, porn, gambling, not to mention the alcohol and the drugs, right? I'm just talking about the free stuff. We're alone. We have free access to all of these things. What those things do is they give us these dopamine hits. Dopamine, dopamine, that's your feel good. But when you have too many of them, your baseline for dopamine lowers. So you need a lot more hits just to get back to normal. It's the same way alcohol works. You know that if you abstain from alcohol for a couple months and then you have a drink, your tolerance is lower. But when you drink a lot, you need a few more drinks to get that same hit, right? So it's the same thing. And then we're not moving. We're not moving our bodies. Movement, exercise, walking, all of that helps with the cortisol and something in your brain called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. That is the only connection that has been studied in depression, and that's free exercise. So there are supplements you can use to help with your cognitive health, to help with your fears, help with your anxiety and depression. I go into that on my website. I will just mention the top ones, the acceleradine, iodine, cognoblast, methylene blue. Those are go-tos where they have taken people off of their anxiety medication that they've been on for 20 plus years. People come out of the woodwork saying, Sarah, I've never even tried to get off my medication, and this has saved me. And then that gives you this mental state where I'm stable and I go, okay, I see that stressor. I'm not going to have fear because if I worry about it, it's going to come true, number one. And number two, life is going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
And how you process it. And I always go back to, okay, God, what are you doing with me on this one? What am I supposed to learn? What is the lesson that is going to strengthen those muscles to deal with the next issue? So that is, the basis. And I have to be honest, Carol, I've had a rough last 3 months. Right? I had a lot of stressors, a lot of family stuff, a lot of stuff going on. And I kept saying, okay, God, take me. I am yours. And I've come out of it and I've realized the lessons that I learned. I pray for him to show me why sooner rather than later, so that I at least know what I'm doing, where I'm going with this. But what's so great is that I'm able to teach my children this at a younger age than I ever got to learn this, because it's so easy, especially if you're type A control freak like I am. You want to control everything. And the sooner you realize that you can't control anything in this life, except for what you do and how you manage the stress, the better your life is going to be and the easier it's going to be. So the takeaway is, when you get a stress, are you going to see it as a 10 or a 1? Because the stress is coming and you're going to get through it. Are you going to deal with it as a 1 or a 10?
Wow. Okay. First of all, a lot of information and ideas and product names that I will not remember without going to your website and looking this up. So I know the audience will be happy to do that. And I know that you are sharing a list of foods that we may be tricked by. I have to say, broccoli and chicken, I'm very disappointed because I always think I'm doing so well when I have broccoli and chicken. So I'm looking forward to your list. Um, but overall, you're bookending with God. We go to him and ask the questions: what, who, how. You're in control and surrender. And you're also, from there, you go to mindset. How are we processing the emotions that come with fear, whether it's fear of the unknown, which is huge, or any of these, just day-to-day life and the amazing health issues that you and your family continue to deal with, but so much you have overcome. And so we get to God, mindset, choice, become educated, be accountable, and then we bookend with those things.
Yeah.
So I think that I I think that for myself and for a lot of the audience, there's such appreciation in, number one, the resilience, the perseverance that started with your little boy saying, Mom, you're going to take care of me. So please tell him that we are all fans and appreciate him. And tell your family we appreciate their perseverance and courage and strength and ability to change and educate others. I want to share with the audience that this is, wonderful. Sara, as you can tell, she is passionate about what she does now, her mission, how she helps people. And the team will make sure that you receive all the information. She is sharing beautiful gifts with all of us. And I want to thank you so much. I think that a fear that turns into stress can be about sharing our stories and
Mm.
being so vulnerable about the truth of our lives, about our beliefs, about how we handle this. So I want to thank you for that. I know this is of such great value to so many. And I look forward to our next conversation. Thank you for your time and your sharing and for what you do for your family and by that example for so many other people.
Thank you, Carol, and thank you for the opportunity. I love telling my story. It's a reminder every time I tell it why I do what I do. And I'm
Sure.
serve, I'm here to help, and it's what feeds my soul. So I would love for all of you to join the free group coaching. There's no cost. I post on a daily basis. I answer your questions. We learn together. We keep each other motivated. You actually learn more about the other people in the group, and it also takes away that loneliness and that fear.
That's so huge. Thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you, Carol.
Have a wonderful evening.